Hi everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. This is episode 143. We have a lot to talk about today. There is a lot going on in the world in general right now, and so we put in an extra live stream. Normally I take some time off during spring break because I've got the kids home and we're sort of having, usually we try and get away and go camping. Well, we are home. Everything that the kids had scheduled for spring break has been canceled. Just for those who are new and who are just tuning in for the first time, I'm coming to you from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. We are currently on a mandatory self-isolation, self-distancing situation, which many of you all over the world are in the exact same boat. So we have made some changes to what we thought that we would be doing for the next 2 weeks. We don't know how long this will last for. They have closed the schools indefinitely. And, we're all in the same boat. So let's make the best of it. Yeah, I see, Diane. You must have had the same thought right at the same time that I did. Yeah, we're all in the same boat. So the kids are pretty squirrely. They're having a tough time. They don't really understand why we can't go to the store and why their camps got canceled. And, it's hard for them to really understand, and we don't want to scare them. So we've been very honest with them, but not sort of blowing stuff out of proportion and out of control. And I've been able to chat with a couple of friends, and of course Rebecca was here, which was lovely, and we were still able to do a few things before the mandatory self-distancing was begun, and she was able to get home. And actually I think she's in the chat, or maybe she hasn't arrived yet, because I know she was going to try to be here. She's there. So it's really good to have you guys here today. We've got a very full show and lots and lots to talk about. So I hope that this is a time of being together as a community and having an opportunity to make lots of things and spend some time talking about the things that we love to talk about the most, and being surrounded by our community and by the people that share many of our passions and many of our we all have lots in common, even if we live in very diverse areas around the world and are all sort of spread out, if you will. So I wasn't actually sure that I was going to be able to get this started on time, because I was sort of running around. Me and the kids made cookies this morning, and I made a big batch of soup, and I'm just going to cook from my pantry. I did get some stuff last week, but our fridge is, getting a bit sparse. We obviously eat a lot of fresh stuff, a lot of produce, and I'm actually taking this as an opportunity to kind of clear out my pantry. So I'm hoping that I can really empty out and get rid of stuff that's been kind of hanging around for a while. So the little things, like I had a leftover bag of flour from Christmas that didn't get used up. So we used it up this morning, it's gone. And we made a huge batch of cookies. So I'm hoping that when this is all done, that our pantries will be relatively empty, and that I can kind of start fresh with some new stuff, because cans and bags and dried goods, they do tend to get pushed to the back and we don't use them, and we always think, I should use that up, and then we buy more. So I'm very well stocked. I have a very big pantry, partially because of the way that we eat, and I'm just looking forward to cooking through the rice and cooking through the pasta and cooking through the beans, and then we can start fresh after the fact. So I hope that you guys aren't, experiencing too much distress. Unfortunately, I know for some people this is very, 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 very hard, and they're very, very isolated, and this is very, very challenging for them. And just know that I'm thinking about you, and I see you. And if there's anything that we can do here at Woolen Spinning, even if it's just spending lots and lots of time on Slack, or organizing sort of get-togethers where everybody's in Slack at the same time and chit-chatting, we can just make the best of it. So luckily we've been able to get outside here. The kids can go into our backyard. They've been playing in the front yard. They know that they can't play with the neighborhood kids, and everybody's on the same page, because unfortunately we've had several neighbors who've been traveling internationally, so that does make it a little bit more challenging, but it is what it is. There are worse things. This is the first time that our world has been asked to do this for probably forever. And this is a really great opportunity for us to see, what are the things that you ran out of, and what are the things that you felt that you needed, what were the things that you thought you needed that you didn't need. I think people will be surprised at how much food they still have at the end. My goal is to try, I don't know if I'll be able to, but I want to try to see if we can get through this whole time without actually going to the grocery store. We have so many frozen fruits and vegetables in the freezer that I'm just kind of curious to do a little bit of a social experiment on my family. Like, can we get through literally pairing to the absolute bare essentials? And we'll see. I will report back. So in today's show, I'm not really going to do a lot of community stuff today. Usually we have the first part of the show is talking about community projects and stuff that you guys have been working on. But as you can see from the camera right down below here, there's an absolute mountain of stuff for me to talk about. And I kind of felt like I just wanted to share with you guys some of the stuff that I was talking about with Rebecca and some of the things that I cast on and that I'm making, and kind of have like an old style podcast episode that's sort of just me sharing with you what I'm making. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to embrace it, and we're going to just enjoy it. So let's talk about our Made with Love along that we just started in the Ravelry group. That the official cast on date will be April 1st, so we will talk about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about my Make 9 progress, because I have some changes that I have made to my Make 9 when I couldn't sleep the other night and I was up from 2:30 till 5 a.m. Yesterday was hard, let me tell you. Very emotional because, when you're so tired and there's so much going on. And then we're going to talk about my sparkle cardigan, which is behind me. And then we're going to talk about some works in progress. So I hope that fits well with you guys. I can see you're already chit-chatting quickly and very lively in the chat. It looks like everybody's really, really in a good humor and approaching this with really good attitudes. Grandkids and cookies, and food storage rotation, making cookies. Sarah's doing the same. Made cookies with the kids 2 days ago. Yeah, you guys are just... Oh, Ashford Eastman are on her doorstep last night thanks to the local yarn shop Wild Hand. That's wonderful, Bridget. What a wonderful opportunity to sit and selfishly play. I have to admit, as much as I'm sad that the kids' school has been so we're on spring break, but they won't be going back to school after the 2 weeks of spring break. So it kind of feels like summer holiday here, and there is the threat that we could end up not going back to school at all until September. And so we've instituted some home learning in the morning, and James's teacher has been sending some stuff home, and we've been continuing on with Nora with her stuff. And there is this part of me that's kind of enjoying having the kids home. Like, they're crazy and it's annoying and there's been a lot of fighting, but I really like having them around, as exhausting as it is. And, that time once the kids go to school and you choose to send your kids out to school, that time in your life is sort of over, of having toddlers at home. And that intensity of toddlers and babies at home is such a short period of time, but the days are so long. And I'm really trying. I'm not perfect. I'm trying to just embrace this time of having the kids at home and letting them have a little bit, more sort of free time, if you will. Like, they're on the iPads right now. And so, Mike's working from home. He's got his stuff, and, just looking at it from a place of gratitude that we have a home that we can be here together and it'll be okay, That's a good point, Megan. Always wanted to try homeschooling, so here's your chance. Absolutely. Yeah, Kelly, actually, that's how the conversations in BC started, was because Alberta had made those declarations that school would be closed until September. And so I'm kind of in the back of my mind, I've got that sort of percolating, if you will. So actually, one of the things that I wanted to do later today, after Mike has finished work, is to spend some time downloading some of the free curricula that you can get on the BC Education website, Ministry of Education, so that we can start homeschooling. for the rest of the however long this lasts. We just can't lose all of this time. And as much as I don't really want to do it because I selfishly want some time off, I think it would be really important to institute some routines. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one that's thinking along those lines, as overwhelming as it feels. One of my really dear friends, she's really struggling with this, and she's a teacher, and I can see how it really comes down to mindset, how we approach these opportunities and these challenges in our lives. And her and I have been having daily phone conversations since Tuesday just to check in, because she is struggling. And her and I have been talking about some approaches we can do with our kids sort of separately, but that the 4 kids are kind of doing the same thing, because her son and my son are in school together, and then her daughter and my daughter are together. So it would be kind of fun to do some parallel stuff, and then the kids can maybe do, once we're not on isolation anymore, we can do like a little show and tell, and the kids can show each other what they were working on, what they did, but it'll be the same thing because they have the same projects, which would be kind of cool. So yeah. Ooh, vacation bucks for the future. What a great idea, Megan. I'm going to pick your brain later. Maybe we can connect on Slack and, yeah, homeschooling folks are not phased. Yeah, it's their routine, right? It's their normal. Okay, let's talk about the Made with Love along. So this is an opportunity. I'm just going to pull it up so that I can read directly because I don't want to mess it up. And I am going to turn off my camera over here because this is the one that we only have so much battery, and I don't want to burn through batteries and then we have no opportunity to look at it later. So the Made with Love along is a pet of Rebecca, who is Rebby J, and Becca in the Ravelry group and community. And it's an opportunity for us as a community to lift those up in our community that were really sort of affected by the cancellation this past week of Fibers West. And so I'm just going to read what Rebecca wrote, because I did put it in the Ravelry group in the forum. So I'm reading off of the forum Made with Love along. So let me just read it and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So this is a time to do what we do best and get creative. This is the time to make and lift up others. Please read Rebecca's blog post to learn more about this make along and event if you would like to learn more about the creation of this amazing event. So this is to honor and lift up Katrina specifically in our community. Obviously Fibers West is a huge event for her. It's one of 2 of the biggest festivals for her. Well, it is the second biggest festival for her for the year. She is our resident dyer for our breed and color study. She's one of my absolute best friends, and she is obviously they've got a lot going on right now. They've had to cancel their trip to Scotland, which she's talked about on Woolen Spinning Radio, this trip that they've been planning for over a year. And it's just an opportunity for us to look around at one another, and it's an opportunity to lift one another up. Katrina and her mom Judy's sort of tagline of their company is Eclectic Creations made with love. So that's why the Made with Love along, like that's why we called it that. We will be having lots of prizes for this. We are asking that to be considered for the final prizes and for the final actual giveaway kind of giveaway prizes, that it is an item that you have made out of either Katrina's yarn or out of her fiber. We recognize that shipping around the world is very challenging, and there are a lot of people economically that are affected by this social distancing and by the pandemic. But so what we're asking is that if you would like to still participate, talk about locally the artist, the hand dyer fiber artist that you're supporting by working with their fiber. So, for example, let's say you're in New Zealand and shipping from here to there to get Katrina's stuff is sort of not realistic at this time or at all. I totally recognize that as well. If you choose a local to you person who's being affected by all of this, talk about that in the Ravelry forum and share that. This is an opportunity for our community to lift up crafty jacks, but we also recognize that shipping around the world and doing all of that isn't necessarily realistic. So what I thought that I would do is sort of for those people who are not able to ship and buy stuff from us locally here, I will have a few prizes that are like stitch markers or something like that that are for those people. So a few of them that are for those people that wanted to participate, because one of the things that you can sort of get like bonus entries of is by using one of Kelly G Knits patterns. So the criteria is basically you must use Crafty Jack's yarn or fiber. It doesn't have to be a spinning project. You can use her commercial yarn and knit something or weave something. I'll talk about my project in just a moment. You get a bonus entry if you buy something new to use. So I bought this yarn specifically for this make along. So I get 2 entries. And then the third bonus entry, so the second bonus entry, third criteria and third sort of thing is that if you use one of Kelly's patterns, Kelly G Knits patterns, you get another bonus entry. So you can earn up to 3 giveaway entries. Kelly just released a new pattern. It's a 2-color circular, half circular, what are those called? Shawls. It's absolutely incredible. So I saw it sitting in Katrina's studio, and me and Rebecca kind of saw it at the same moment, and we were both like, what is that? So it's out of Katrina's new yarn, Be Fabulicious, which is a 100% BFL fingering. It's absolutely gorgeous yarn. I've been playing with it in the background because Katrina had a little tiny ball of it that was left over from when she was doing some skeins back about 6 to 8 months ago. And I've been playing with it, and I just love this yarn. And you guys know how I feel about commercial yarn. I very, 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 very rarely buy commercial yarn. So there was 2 skeins of this. It's a one of a kind that she had been playing with colors. So it's just an oak, O-O-A-K. If you guys ever see that on like Ravelry, or you see that on Etsy or on Instagram, oak, O-O-A-K, capital letters, it means one of a kind. So the dyer has, something happened in the dyeing process, or they were just playing and they can't reproduce it. So I got 2 skeins of this, and I am actually going to be making the Anchors cardigan by Petite Knits. And the reason for this is because this cardigan has been in my queue for a very long time. I've been trying to get around to the goal of spinning for it, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, and I just really would like to make the cardigan. And I saw this yarn sitting at Katrina's, and I thought, bingo, this will be that sweater. So if you guys want to, actually, I can show you what the sweater looks like. And I've been playing around so much with photos, and I just recently got a I've been talking about it for a while, and I recently finally sort of Mike and I decided to do it. I have bought another computer for the podcast because I just can't keep up with all of the. I can't always be on the desktop, and I'm finding more and more that I need to be able to access stuff. And so now the only problem with that is as I get used to it and as I get into a routine of this sort of new storage of stuff, I have to figure out where is stuff stored on here, or is it stored on the other computer? Is it in the cloud? Can I access it? Or so it's sort of like this new normal for me that I have to figure out So this is the Anchors cardigan by Petite Knits. So super cute, really, really lovely sweater. It's got a broken rib up at the top for the yoke, and you use that 1x1 ribbing. It increases and changes in texture slightly as you move down the yoke of the cardigan. And then you place the sleeves on stitch holders and knit the body, and then go back and knit the sleeves. And I think I haven't read through the whole pattern yet. I have bought it already. I think that the button band is knit at the same time. So you're doing the top collar and the button band at the same time. So the amount of finishing is quite minimal. So what I'm actually hoping is that this becomes kind of like my car knitting. Like I can just work on it as I am doing stuff. So our make along, this Made with Love along will be, it will run from April 1st is our cast on date, and we are asking that you finish by July 31st, and we'll have a special show at the beginning of August to draw prizes, and to I'll do a showcase of everybody's projects and whatnot. Oh, a half pie shawl. That's right. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's a great pattern, isn't it, Charlotte? Yeah. So I think I'm really so I couldn't sleep the other night. There was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on, and obviously I'm very aware of the fact that I have colleagues that are in kind of on the front lines through this, and there's been some situations that are just really upsetting. From a critical care perspective, of people that are very sick that I know that are they're fighting for their lives, and they're frontline healthcare people, and it's very upsetting to me, because I work in this environment. I looked after the SARS patient that we had in our unit. Like I've been in these situations before. And I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking about all of this stuff, and I was thinking about sort of the impact that it's having on our daily lives right now. And I was just flooded with this really deep sense of gratitude, and of recognizing that we have an opportunity as sort of a world to come together, and to help and maybe reach out to others, to alleviate a little bit of suffering, whether that's coming together in the Ravelry group, coming together in the live stream, coming together in the live chat, hopping on Slack. One of the reasons why I really wanted to get a second computer was because of the desktop, and because of the size of my phone. I find it really hard to get on Slack as regularly as I would like to, and to keep up with some of the conversations on there, because I feel a deep sense of connection when I'm able to check in really regularly. And that's been such a godsend for me. So thank you to those of you who've been interacting and chatting and a part of all of that. It's really meaningful to me. It also has given me an opportunity to think about my capsule wardrobe and what I want to cast on. So this sweater was one of those things that I just kept thinking, I have wanted to make it for so long. It is not difficult. It is all rib and stockinette. I'm going to take advantage. I'm going to do something totally selfish. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions about the Made with Love along before we move on? Would love to address those before we go on to my Make 9. All right. Humans are very resourceful. Yes, we are. And I think we have to remember that. And we also are capable of incredible things. And I think we need to remember that as well. Yeah. All right. How else can we help Katrina without buying? You know, I think, Diane, really, I think just the support, she's really felt the outpouring of support. She probably, she's a very, very humble person. She's very, very introverted. Just a note, a message, just saying that you're thinking about her, and that that goes a long way with anybody anyways. And tell her that you're thinking about her, work doesn't stop for her. She's still working hard, and she's building her business. And, I think like many of us who are small business owners, this is an opportunity to maybe work on some projects that we've been kind of putting on the back burner because we feel like we don't have time. And, we all have so much to give and so much to offer. And I think that's something that I've really been struck with over the last few weeks before this even happened. This sense of just, I feel like I have so much to give, and I have so much to create, and so much that I just want to pour out, because I've been feeling very inspired for a very long time, and it hasn't waned, which I think is a good thing. And I think sometimes just reaching out to someone with a simple message really goes a long way. Oh, that's a great idea, Becca. Talk about her stuff on social media to help to spread the word. That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about my Make 9 really quickly, because I have quite a few things. Actually, you know what, you guys? Let's talk about my sparkle cardigan, because then I can move it forward, and then I can talk about my Make 9 stuff in just a minute. And then I can set up the camera and kind of have it going. So let me just pull my dress form forward. And I don't want it to go out of the camera. So this is my sparkle cardigan. It might look a little bit different, and you guys who have been following the podcast for a while will recognize the stitch patterning. I'm going to take this off, but what I wanted to say quickly before I know it's a little bit blurry. The camera's going to get a bit confused between my face and focusing on the cardigan. So what I'll do is I'll shift in just a moment so that it does the camera. What I keep saying I'm really sorry, you guys. I'm really tired. Sorry, as I do it again. When I'm tired, I say a lot, and I kind of like lose my words and stumble. I don't think that that's unusual. I think many people talk about that when they're podcasting and whatnot, and being aware of it is really helpful. So just bear with me. The shawl that I have on here is the one that I made back in the fall that has the wrap stitches, and it was my logwood so it was my this was Kramer Yarns wool alpaca, and I had spindle spun some of it, and then I had I think I switched it over to the wheel. It was a fiber review, like I was reviewing it. Maybe that's a bit better in terms of the lighting. It's very dark. Anyways, it was dark gray roving, and I had spun it up, and then the yarn I dumped into a logwood dye bath, and it went really well. And this is still to date one of my most favorite things that I've ever spun and knit and then dyed. And because it's been sitting on my dress form for the last number of months, and you guys have seen it in the background, and I've worn it quite a bit actually, and it's so warm. And you guys know that I have a sensitivity to alpaca, but I can wear this no problem. And thanks, Kelly, I appreciate that. And I was thinking that as I've been looking at it over the last few months and seeing it on my dress form, and I've been wearing it all the time. And actually one of my favorite outfits that I've been wearing it with when I'm not because I wear like workout gear a lot because of how active I am. And I'm thankful to be able to be active. I wear it actually a lot with these yoga pants. So this is actually like a very, very common outfit for me, because it just works, and I can throw it on, and I can go to the school and drop the kids off, and I have a sweatshirt that works really well with it. So look, the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because looking at this on my dress form for the last number of months, and I'll wear it and then I'll put it back on my dress form because I'm just so in love with this shawl. I Love it. I kept thinking I need to get my sparkle cardigan out. I never wear it. Being that stark white has really affected how much I can wear it because it is so white. And when you put another shirt underneath that's a little bit darker, you can see that where the sleeves end, it's really bright white. It was sort of that like white cream, so it wasn't like bleached white, but it wasn't oatmeal. I hope seeing a photo of it here is helpful. And I just couldn't, I just never wore it. I think I wore it like maybe once, and it's hanging in my closet, and I kept thinking I have to dye it, I have to dye it, I have to dye it. And it just never got done, or never got worn. So I've been talking to Katrina about possibly dyeing it, but she was really concerned that if we threw it in an acid dye, that even if it was sort of as well prepared as possible, she was really worried that it wouldn't dye evenly, and that if it was her, she would rip it out and dye the yarn and then reknit it. Because the yarn was an 85-15 mohair Romney blend, and just looking at the fabric, like there's no way on God's green earth that I would ever be able to rip this cardigan out. It would just destroy the yarn. Partially because all of those little fibers have locked together, and partially just because of the pattern stitching. You know, you're knitting through the back loop of yarn overs, and just that twisting and those stitches locking together, it would just destroy it. Good night, Becca. And I just decided, you know what, I'll do something with natural dyes. So I scoured it because it never did get dyed. I'm sure it got scoured at the mill when it was initially made into pin drafted roving. I did wash it after I finished knitting with it, but I thought, you know what, I'll scour it, I'll mordant it with alum. And actually, let me pull up my numbers here so that I can give you guys proper. I think I mordanted it at, that's a hard word to say, mordanted, blah, blah, blah. I mordanted it at, oh, I didn't write it. Oh, alum mordant at 15% weight of fiber. So this was 230 grams, the whole sweater. I cut off the buttons, and I put new buttons on because the old buttons didn't work anymore. I didn't want to buy new buttons. That was one thing that I had said, no new buttons. So I used some clear plastic buttons out of my stash. So nothing special. They're like, you know, a penny each, but I really like them. And so the whole sweater was 230 grams. I used an alum mordant and I used Orvis paste to scour. So I left it on the stove for about an hour. I think I have some photos. Do I have photos? I do. I have photos. Okay, so I scoured it for an hour. You know, per the instructions from Maiwa, which were from a dye workshop that I did back in 2014. It was November. Was it 2014 or 2015? I think it was 2015. And then I mordant it at 15% weight of fiber. And then I dyed it with madder, and I wanted it to be really light. I actually wanted it a little bit lighter than this, but it's natural dyes, so it will fade over time. And I ended up doing a 10% depth of shade. So I made on the stove, because madder, when you get it as dye stuffs, it's all like shredded, like the plant of the madder. I thought that there were some photos of me actually dyeing too. If this cycles through and there's no photos of me actually making the dye stock, I'll include those. But I'm pretty sure I put them in. They'll come up at some point. Or not. We'll see. I'll add them. Anyhow, I made a slurry. So of the dye stock and the madder. And then I I had some cheesecloth. Here it is. I had some cheesecloth. I strained out the dye stock, and then I added the dye stock to my pot. This is me making my slurry. And strained it all out. And actually the dye stock that I made from this slurry, it was beautiful. Like there was no sediment in it. There was nothing. And then I said a prayer. I said to Rebecca, I'm like, well, here goes nothing. And in it went. And it took the dye so evenly. I didn't try to like cram it in really super fast. The whole sweater was already wet from the mordant. And I just pushed it down, pushed it in, and then I left it. So I kept agitating it. It was on the heat. I had it on simmer at that point, so it was on my low burner. And I just kept checking it. I left it in there for probably, well, I think I was actively dyeing it for between where the stove was on, I wrote it down and I don't have my notes right here, but I think it was like an hour or two. I feel like it was 2 hours. But then when it was done, like I could have just turned the stove off and rinsed it all out. I actually turned the stove off and I left it. I didn't pull it out. I just left it in the dye bath, and I just pushed it over to the corner of my kitchen. And this is actually one of the reasons why I like natural dyeing so much, is I don't have to worry about all the chemicals and all the stuff. Like I can just I can have it in the kitchen, keep those areas clean, keep it, free of other like food that we're eating, but I don't have to be quite so careful. So I do have my separate stuff that's for dyeing. Obviously I don't do a lot of dyeing, but you guys, I do once in a while. Although this has really, really inspired me, I have to admit. So I just left it. And that evening, so this was on Sunday, that evening, Rebecca and I were going out for dinner with Katrina and Felicia. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave this. We're going out. It's probably the last time that we're going to get out for a while, because that was right when Canada's messaging was changing, and the threat of, not the threat in a bad way, but just we were aware of like the sort of pending social distancing. I was pretty sure the kids' school was going to be canceled, et cetera, et cetera. Like it was all kind of happening on Sunday. And so I just left it overnight. I just left it in the pot. And you know what is so crazy? The dye bath exhausted. The water that I rinsed out the next morning was completely and totally clear. Isn't that cool? So it worked out really, really well. Yeah. Oh, that's true, Rebecca. I did turn the stove off early because we did an episode of Woolen Spinning Radio, which I haven't edited, but I do have a bonus episode of Woolen Spinning Radio that will be coming up in the next day or two. So you guys can look for that. I'm really happy with it. This isn't really my color, if you will. Like this isn't a color that I wear, but I have noticed, and this was one of the things that I was going to talk about with my Make 9, is my overall aesthetic and my style is changing. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to push my comfort zone a little bit and dye something that is, something that I'm going to wear and that I'm really going to enjoy. This new color works over this shirt that I'm wearing in the modeled photo. It actually still works over that shirt, which is really exciting. And actually, I was going to try it. I think because of the color in my pants, I'm pretty sure it'll work with these pants and this outfit. Which is super cool. How fun is that? I'll stand back. So I'm really happy with it. get some extra light. The sun has moved, so I'll put on. Yeah, so I'm really happy with this, with how this all turned out. I mean, talk about a little bit of kismet, because I wasn't totally sure how it was going to go. And Katrina, when I was talking to her, she was sort of like, oh no. So the fact that not only do I have something that's so incredibly wearable, I can make an outfit. So one of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of my capsule wardrobe is because of some recent changes and some stuff that I've been participating in, I've kind of ended up with a bit of a capsule wardrobe without even meaning to, because of just going through my clothing and getting rid of some stuff. And I've been creating sort of what you would think of as being like modules. So like basic daily wear, sort of set 1, basic daily wear set 2, basic daily wear set 3. So an example of that would be what I'm wearing right now. So with a module, you want 3 shirts, 1 piece of outerwear, so like a sweater, a cardigan, a jacket, but not like a rain jacket or a trench coat, but like, you know, something like this, or like a blazer, and then 2 pairs of pants. And those 6 items can be combined to create between 12 and 18 different outfits, which is just mind-blowing. And then if you have 2 modules, those 2 modules on their own create between 12 and 18 outfits, but together create between 48 and 72 outfits. And then if you have 3 modules, you can do the math. If you have 3 modules, you can create up to 216 outfits. Boof. Just mind blown. So that's actually what I've been doing. So this becomes a module. So if I stand back here for a minute, so pair of pants, 1 shirt and a cardigan, and then this is an accessory that's sort of separate from your module, if you will. So then what I can do is have another shirt, 2 shirts, maybe a tank top and another shirt, and then a pair of jeans, and that's your 2 pairs of pants. So your sort of workout activewear yoga pants, and then your pair of jeans, and just changing out the bottom creates a whole new outfit, right? And so you can see that this is sort of the anchoring piece that goes with all 3 shirts and goes with both pairs of pants. And then you can change out your accessory. You know, so like maybe I want to, I was gonna say maybe I should make a shawl that's white, but no more white. But you know, maybe one of my other shawls works with this as well, like one of my other ones. So that becomes your accessories that are sort of separate, but this becomes an outfit. Now the trick is that you need to take a photo, because you have to remember A, what your module is, and B, what those outfits are that you really love, that you're going to go back to again and again and again and wear daily. Yoga pants aren't pants. Yes, they are. In Vancouver, they are. So when I first started, you know, going back to being more active and stuff, I hated being in yoga pants when I wasn't at the gym. Like I would take clothes and I would change, and I just didn't like being out and about in yoga pants. But now it's just purely practical. Like I can't be constantly changing, and so I've decided to sort of embrace that and build some outfits around how I need to dress on a daily basis, you know, and just roll with it, right? There's no rules. Oh, is there a resource to check out this system? Yes, Kelly. And Kelly, because I didn't end up seeing you last weekend, I need to get your Shetland to you. So let's chat, because I am actually we're probably going to go up to Whistler in the next couple of months once things are kind of, you know, back to normal and stuff. So maybe you and I can connect and we can stop by. In Vancouver, they definitely are. Yeah. You know, Sarah, I know you're not like local, but I know you've been up here and you understand. And also it means that my clothing gets worn more, because if I'm wearing, like, say these pants, for example, it means that wearing my sweater more, which means that I'm wearing my shawl more, which means that I'm actually using my clothing. So that's part of the reason why I started to let some of that go. There was the resource for the system. So I'll maybe put some links in the show notes. Let me make a note because, of course, I don't have any paper here. Can somebody send me a note in Slack, just in the general channel, modules capsule wardrobe, and I will post stuff. Okay, that's probably enough waxing poetic about my new outfit that I'm so happy with. Oh, and did you guys see what I did with my scout tee? I tied it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about making more of these long term, because when I'm wearing it, I feel like I don't have a waist, and stuff looks the best on me because everybody's different, right? Everybody has different shapes and different sort of ways of styling their clothes that work for them. I need stuff that has a waist. So I tied it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to make any more scout tees this year. I think I might give that a rest. Okay, let me put my other camera back on, and we will talk about, we've talked about the Made with Love along. We haven't talked about the shift cowl. This is going to end up being a really long show. I'll talk about my shift cowl really, really quickly before I switch over. I'm almost done. I was hoping to have it cast off and blocking today, but I'm just not quite there. These are my Fin Study yarns. It's another opportunity for outfit. This could be another hang on, I'm holding it upside down. This could be another piece that I could wear with this outfit. It's a bit crazy for me, but it's my Fin Study yarns from the winter of 2017-2018. Arctic Berries, Fractured Dawn, and Lakeside. And I'm literally 3 rows away from binding off. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm really glad that I saw this through and that I committed to this. And there will be a much more in-depth conversation on the How I Spin vlog in April. So those of you who subscribe to How I Spin, please look forward to that. And if you're interested in that content, you're looking for the co-executive producer. That is the How I Spin content on Patreon. And it's a monthly vlog. It's about 20 to 30 minutes long. And starting in May, we're going to have a 3-month series. There will be more information coming on this in the coming month, specifically about yarn substitution. So this content is going to run kind of more like how we used to run stuff, around like a formal workshop. And the attentive spinners, you guys know who you are, will be receiving every month a transcript of all of that information as part of the How I Spin vlog that goes with the the yarn substitution content. So it'll be a 3-month workshop, and we'll cover a number of different topics. It'll actually be 4 months because the August will be some of it too. So a 4-month sort of yarn substitution discussion in the How I Spin vlog and content. And that will be for the attentive spinners as well. I'm really excited about it. I've been working on it like nonstop. I'm so excited. So, Erica, the project bag. Yes, right? I know, it's amazing. I've had this for 2 years. This is my favorite project bag. It's bigger than my head. It's huge. It fits 2 sweater quantities of yarn and projects. And I usually have 1 set of my interchangeable needles in here, whether it's my Addies or my Hayas or my Likes. Like, I always have at least 1 sort of envelope, if you will, of interchangeable needles in here. And it holds 2 sweater quantities of yarn with their projects. And this is my friend Monique's shop, Frog Peak Creations, and she's on Etsy. She has fantastic fabrics, and I just love this bag so much. And I almost didn't buy it. It was at Knit City a 1.5 years ago, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I just thought, I just love it so much. So yes, the large sweater project bag, that's the one. The only change that I would make, and I know Monique watches the podcast, so I know that she'll hear this feedback. This is the only thing that I would recommend for a big bag like this, is on these fabrics, so this side and the other side, on either the lining fabric or the outside fabric, whichever one, to use lightweight interfacing, just so that the bag is a little bit more so it doesn't fall. That's the only thing that I would change. But I use this probably more than any other project bag, and I always have it with me. Always. Rebecca can back me up on that, because I take it with me everywhere. Okay, let's talk about, do you guys want to do a spin in progress next, or do you want to do another garment in progress? While you guys are thinking about that, while I was clearing out this weekend for Rebecca coming, I found all of these bags of spindle projects. And Rebecca and I had some great conversations about our spinning and our making and whatnot. And this is something that I am making a public commitment to, really making more spindling projects and more spindle yarns. I really miss it, and I've got a couple of I bought a couple of sets of Rolex from Katrina that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to spin them. I really want to use my spindles more, and I've got a couple of really big spins that are going to go on the Ashford e-spinner, and we'll talk about those next time. And those are for my big project that I'm working on that wheel right now, and some of the other stuff that I want to spin right now, I'm going to do on spindles. So, spindling. And I think too, like this summer, with everything that's going on, I really want to spend as much time with the kids outside as I can, kind of more like what we used to do when they were toddlers. And so that was part of the reason for wanting to focus on, getting some spindle projects onto, like finishing these ones up that I've already started. Because just really embracing the simplicity of our making has been something that I feel like I've been really called to recently, of like slow cloth, slow yarn, slow making, this idea of capsule wardrobe, like what does that really mean? And that takes us actually into my, this stuff, my spinning in progress. As I've been creating my modules and sort of writing down what I want to include in my modules, I've basically created 5, because I don't have to just have, so the one of the things you can Google for this idea of modules, Kelly, is the project 333. So the idea is 33 items that you can wear for 3 months and then you rotate. I'd really like to create a capsule wardrobe I don't feel like I need to be married to this idea of 33 items. And I also don't feel like I need to be married to this idea of 3 months, because I can wear my clothing year round here. The only thing that I rotate through are shorts, because even in the summer we need jeans here. And so as I was putting together some of my projects for what I wanted to do for my modules, I was sort of struck with this idea of like, how many modules do I want to create of collections of clothing, so that I can, and I'm going to photograph them on my dress form, so that I can create sweaters for each outfit. And how many sweaters do I want to create, and how long is that going to take me? So it's going to take a whole heck of a lot longer than just a year. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to extend my make 9 to sort of indefinite, and it'll just take me as long as it takes me. So this is one of my, so that's what I'm going to do. I wanted to show you guys my new Make 9 because I've updated it. That's why I keep interrupting myself, which I know is really annoying, but just bear with me here. So this is my new updated Make 9. And there's three sweaters in here that are going to be from commercial yarn, which is really unusual for me, I know. But the one that's on, the one right here, second one up, that's that sort of like creamy, tawny, pinky color kind of, below Trailhead, which is the dark brown one in the upper left-hand corner. So the one in the middle there with the lace paneling, that is going to be out of my custom woolen mills that I bought the day that my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer back in July when I was in Whitehorse. That yarn was sort of, I always think of it as being the yarn that, because I went back into the store afterward and I went back and bought it because I've been waffling, and I really want something that sweater will still be with me in 15, 20, 30 years. And I kept coming back to this sweater again and again and again. So I have actually cast it on. I'll show it to you in a future episode. I'm really excited about it. It's a really great construction where you start at the back neck and you work your way down. So I'm currently on the raglan increases right now. So that's commercial yarn. And then the other one that's going to be commercial yarn that we talked about earlier in the show is the Anchors cardigan that's in the upper right hand corner, and you guys recognize that from the picture from earlier. And then the other one that's going to be commercial yarn, and I left the yarn downstairs, so I'm really sorry, is in the middle at the bottom. It's that yellow colored one, and that's Cyrus. I think it's called Cyrus. Circus or Cyrus? Cyrus, by Nancy O'Connell. And the reason for making that poncho style sweater is because I would really like to make some tunic style shirts to wear underneath. I have a couple of aprons that I sometimes need something to throw on over top, but I'm still wearing the apron because I need it for later. And I just think from like a style perspective, it would just work really well. I could put yoga pants with it. That's right, Eve. Yoga pants with it, or I could put jeans. So that's two of my two bottoms, my outerwear, which is the sweater itself, and then a couple of different shirts underneath. So I have a couple of longer dresses that could go underneath, and I have a couple of tunics. So I'll kind of play around with that. So that's going to be in Sweet Georgia Yarn's Tough Love Sock in our Beautis. And again, I never buy yarn ever, but that colorway, I don't know what it is about that colorway. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to make that. Those three things will be out of commercial yarn. Everything else will be out of hand spun. The one in the very middle is called Gentle Morning, and it's this beautiful oatmeal. And that's actually Blacker Yarns, the yarn that she used. And the Blacker Yarns Tamar, I don't know if anybody in the chat has worked with that yarn, but it's a, I was going to say luxury blend, but like, the Blacker yarns are so beautiful anyways. So it's a luxury yarn because of its beauty. It's a long wool. So it's 30% wool, 18% Teeswater, 18% Wensleydale, 17% Lister long wool, and 17% Cotswold. So when I was looking at the up close photos of that sweater, you could really see the halo, and you can really see sort of how the yarn bends in the knit stitches. It's way closer of an approximation to the yarns that I have been sampling from my Gotland Romney fleece. So these are my samples from my Gotland Romney fleece. And they are very, 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 a lot closer. These are so soft. I love these samples so much. These are way, way closer to the fabric that I need for that sweater. And then I'm going to, I'll ask Katrina, or I'll dye them, do a natural dye of oatmeal. I would like an oatmeal sweater. And I'm going to call it oatmeal, because Gentle Mornings and oatmeal are like, what's that thing where things go together? They're like peanut butter and jam. So I'm really excited about that. That is going to be my priority sort of this spring, is getting that fiber processed, getting it spun. I don't need as much yardage for that sweater as I did for the no frills cardigan, because every time I was looking at the no frills cardigan, the reason why I wanted to pivot a little bit and change, I'm going to take this off so I can show you guys what I mean, is I have the no frills cardigan doesn't really have a front, so it's a raglan with the collar on it, and when you see it worn, it kind of sits like this does on the shoulders, right? So it kind of hangs. Oh, sorry, I just banged the table. So it kind of hangs like this, and it kind of hangs off your shoulder, and it's very casual, and I really like that aesthetic. But I'm wearing a sweater that already does that. So the thing is that I would like to have some different shapes that I can put with my clothes, because this will get worn more if I don't reproduce it in every single item that I make. Does that make sense? So yeah, kismet, that's the word I was looking for. Thanks, Kelly. So that's what I'm going to do. So I wanted to make a slightly different shape. And what, you know how sometimes when you're like cruising on Ravelry or you're cruising online and you're looking at stuff and you're kind of looking for that je ne sais quoi, but you haven't kind of found it yet? That is very much what happened with Gentle Morning. So it's by Trin Anna Lee. And I don't think she's done a lot of designing. I'd never heard of her before. She's designed on Ravelry about 19 patterns, and all of her stuff, honest to goodness, I could knit every single piece of hers. One of her toques is called Winter's Fern, and it's just beautiful, the color work in it. And she has another sweater that's a yoked sweater that's got gorgeous color work in the yoke. So I really highly recommend that you guys check her stuff out. And I stumbled on this particular sweater, and I just thought, yes. What I actually did and how I stumbled on it was I was looking for yarns that were commercially very similar to this yarn. So I actually looked up Blacker Yarns Tamar, and the sweater came up. So that's how I did that, because it's part of some of the conversation on the yarn substitution. Now, the other sweater that I am just absolutely, totally, and completely in love with right now is the Flan, which is the one that's the closest to in the grid to me right now. And it was in Brooklyn Tweed. It's a Justina Lorkowski pattern, and it's this little cropped thing, and it's just really, really cute. And that's actually what this is going to be for, possibly. The other one that I might do with this yarn is the one on the very far side that is by Anka Strike. I never know how to say her name. And that one is called something. Oh, what did she call it? Something. The one that's halfway up, that's the stripy pullover, that one is called Simple Something. But the other one is called, it's like Small Love. Here it is, Little Love. I was close. So that one, it doesn't take very much yardage. It's a light fingering that's used for that. And the, yeah, there's just not that much yardage used. And so I'm going to see, I've been spinning this. I was going to do Bailey's Irish Cream. It's a Thea Coleman pattern, but I actually kind of am thinking that I'll do something more like this because I think I'll wear it a little bit more. So that's kind of where I'm up at. So yeah, this, I'll move that image. So this is actually West Coast color. It's 100% Falkland, and it was, so Lynn, we went to see Lynn on Saturday, and we'll wrap this up in a few minutes, but I don't think, if you guys have to go, you have to go, but I've got a couple minutes, so we'll stream a bit longer today because I do try to stick to an hour. Because of Fibers West being canceled, Lynn was down from the interior, from Tappan, where she's located, and Disdarrow Ranch is up there as well. And she had stayed over the weekend because she was staying with her friend Anne, who's also a really good friend of mine. And so I texted her on Friday morning and I was like, is there any chance we can come and see you? Because the social distancing and stuff hadn't started yet. And so she texted me back right away and was like, absolutely. I'd love to have you. What time do you think you're going to come? And then later that same morning, it was like within an hour or two, she announced that she was going to do a bit of a pop-up at Anne's house. And it was really neat because when Rebecca and I got there, it was mostly guild people. So Rebecca got to meet a lot of the women that I actually am on executive with and are part of my guild. So that was really fun. Anyway, she had all of her fiber set up in one of the bedrooms that's off of the main area of the house. And she had it just piled up in her regular bags that she always has. That's kind of quintessential Anne. And for those who don't know who Anne is, she's West Coast Color. So she's a local to me dyer. She's also one of my most favorite people in the whole wide world. And actually her website is West Coast Color. I think it's .com or .ca. West Coast Color and Carding.com. And her and her husband Chris are just amazing people. They're very, very kind. And she's very conscientious, and they have a fiber farm. It's a no-kill farm. And then she sources some of her fibers for dyeing. And actually I did bolster my stash this weekend, let me tell you. And so I got some of her, what's it called? It's one of her luxury blends that she does. And I bought three hanks of it, fiber. I have a specific idea in mind for it. And then I also got some other stuff that I'm just going to play with. So long story short, she had these like big, she doesn't braid her fiber. She just leaves it free. And she had these big, like balls of balled up Falkland, this 100% Falkland. And this is the same fiber that I just finished my Copenhagen out of. And so I just spun a whole bunch of Falkland. I have to admit, I'm not sure I've ever said this on the podcast before, but Falkland is actually one of my most favorite fibers to spin. It was one of the first fibers that I had ever spun, and it's continued to be one of my absolute most favorites. I don't know why. I just love Falkland so much. And this is the Falkland that I spun back in the fall for the Copenhagen cardigan. So that's it there, held double with mohair, with a mohair silk lace yarn. And so I had just spun all of this Falkland, and she had all these like bundles of it. And we were all talking about the social distancing and the social isolating. And she obviously was very, very emotional because of Fibers West. And, these are big events for people. And these balls of fiber were sitting there on the counter, and she's like, oh yeah, and please excuse my language because I don't generally swear at all, period, let alone on the podcast. She's like, oh yeah, those are the fucking Pantone Pacific blue colors that I did. And she's just so like, ugh. And we all just burst out laughing because 2020 for a lot of people has been a very challenging year thus far. And with everything that's going on, it's not been a very easy time. And of course now, for many people economically with Fibers West is very challenging. And her face, she's just like, ugh. And this is one of my favorite colors. It's like one of my most favorite colors ever. And so I was already in the process of paying, and I said to her, I'm like, can I have one of them? And she's like, yes, take it. So I took the biggest one, and this is actually about 220 grams. Not this, I've stripped it down. And I've already finished half of it. So one bobbin is already spun 110 grams onto the bobbin. This is it here. And I'm spinning to 18 wraps per inch for my singles, with the goal and intention of plying to about 11, I have it written down, 11 wraps per inch or 14 wraps per inch. I think it was 11 for a DK. And then we'll see what I get for yardage and what I decide, because I wasn't sure if I was to make the Little Love, which calls for a light fingering yarn, I would have to play around with the pattern repeat, like the stitch repeat and the stitch count and whatnot, but I'm totally willing to do that, and we'll see. I might also do the Bailey's pattern that I had thought about. That one is by Thea Coleman. The other one I was thinking about doing was just like something like a shawl, and I'll just see kind of what the yardage is in the end, because I was sort of aiming for what I would have needed to do the Bailey's Irish Cream. Do you guys want to see a photo of that one really quickly? Because it just got released again recently, this past weekend. She's been offering a pattern discount on it. I don't know if it's still there, but it was part of a collection of patterns. Maybe some of you who kind of follow some of this stuff will know, because I actually, to be honest with you, I recognized it right away, but I wasn't sure where it was from, if it was her own, or I'm not really sure, but that's it there. So really beautiful all over lace, 11 wraps per inch for the yarn, and it calls for 950 yards, but obviously given what we've talked about on the podcast and stuff, I wouldn't need that kind of yardage, and I could always make the sleeves 3/4 length. So I sort of had thought it's to knit from the top down. The only thing that is picked up after the fact is I think everything's knit as one piece. Yeah, everything's knit as one piece. So you could knit it's top down, so you can knit again to the sleeves, knit the sleeves, and then knit the body until you run out of yarn. And after my experience with Marie Chen and how much yarn I have left over from that, and unfortunately it's too big for me, and I'm still kind of trying to figure that out. I'll just show it to you for those who never saw it. Oops. Marie Chen ended up being one of my most favorite cardigans I've ever made. I loved the pattern. I love everything about it. It is such a fantastic pattern by Isabel Kramer. Marie Chen is all one word for those looking for this pattern. I did switch out the buttons, so the buttons that are in this photo are not accurate. But it's too big, and I have so much yarn left over. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I'm just so not worried about yardage anymore. I know that's terrible. So that's kind of my story. Oh, I have one more thing to share with you. Okay, so you know how in my Make 9, there was that one sweater. I should put it up again just to show you guys. Oops. Okay, so you see that sweater it's Simple Something. It's in the upper, it's in the middle row, and it's the pullover. I think it's sort of the other pullover. I have a poncho and a pullover. Those are two items that are going into my wardrobe, if you will. I don't wear pullovers very much, but I have found that I've really appreciated them this winter because it's been so cold. And I've actually reached for my pullovers a few times, which has been really cool. So I've sort of thought that maybe I'll make a couple of make a pullover and see if I wear it. And I still need to tell you about my Felix. So we've got a little bit of stuff left. So the Simple Something, which is another Anka-Strick pattern, I ripped out my Comfort Fade Cardi, and I rewound my alpaca merino silk yarn. This is my hand spun Sweet Georgia Yarns spin. It's a 2-ply. So the pattern, so for the Simple Something, you actually hold the yarns double, because what happened was, and I think some of you who understand, like who've worked with your hand spun yarns a lot, and recognize sort of what happens when you end up with all of these yarns not getting used up. The problem is that you end up with all of these half skeins and bits of skeins, And I'm just finding like I need to use up yarn. Like even after I knit my sparkle cardigan, I still had like 500 yards of yarn left. And it did end up being used in our sheep to shawl, but still, like it's a lot of yarn. I know you guys really get that. So I ripped out Comfort Fade. Yes, Kelly, I did rip it out. And I'm going to try the Simple Something instead, because you hold the yarns double, because I had finished the yoke of the Comfort Fade and I had separated for the arms. I wasn't super keen on the fabric. It was just too loose and too open. And you guys know what alpaca merino does. It stretches and it has a lot of drape. And I just couldn't see how the fabric was going to keep its structure long term. Like look at how stretchy that is and how open it is. Like you can see me through. You can see my eyes. Like that's crazy. So I re-swatched on 3.5 millimeter needles. So this is one size smaller. And the fabric's a bit better. I think if I was doing a shawl, that's what I would have chosen instead of the 4 millimeter needles. And I mean, the fabric is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful fabric. But then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go and look for some other stuff and look for some other inspiration. And this pullover kept coming up again and again and again. So you actually knit it with the yarn held double. And you know who does this a lot and uses this technique with her handspun is when she does work in her handspun yarns is Bitka, the dyer behind Hedgehog Fibers. And so I'm knitting on 4 millimeter needles. The fabric is way denser. She does talk in the pattern about the fact that your fabric will be a bit stiffer because she has you holding 2 fingering weight yarns double on 4 millimeter needles. And I did cast on with contrasting yarn. So this is the Targi. And she has all of these tips and techniques in the pattern as you work your way through the pattern when you first read it before you cast on, of all of these ways of blending the yarns together and blending and creating this sort of blended movement of color throughout the body of the sweater. So, you know, how to introduce the darker colors and how to introduce the mediums. And you use mostly the lighter, but that's okay, because if I have a nice structure to the yarn, then of the merino alpaca yarn, it'll create a really nice blending. And then you can wear the sweater inside out, or you could, like with the reverse stockinette, which is how it's shown in the photo there, or you can wear it on the stockinette side smooth. So we'll see. This is sort of a bit of another leap of faith. The other thing too, Rebecca and I were talking about over the course of the weekend was, you know, some of this turmoil and some of this sort of, you know, not knowing what to do and if it's the right thing to do and should I rip it, should I not rip it? You know, I don't love the fabric. What am I going to do? Like just sort of this like back and forth of sort of what do I do? And having the confidence to rip out too, when you know that it's just not really what you were hoping for and not really what you were working toward. And it's just a yarn structure situation. Like it wasn't because the fading wasn't working. It was just because of it needed to be denser fabric. So I either needed to cast on again, rework the math and cast on with smaller needles, or try something else. So, part of this sort of back and forth and turmoil that goes back and forth around creating and going from the yarn to the finished object, I find there's often this in-between period that's a little bit tumultuous, and I've just learned over time to embrace it, and it's just part of the creative process for me. It's part of creating the items and the things that we really want to make and that we really are excited about, and I just have become more and more comfortable with, so I have to rip it out. What's the worst thing that could happen? Reskein, rewash the yarn, and start again. So I think holding them together will help with some of the color movement a little bit too, because the yarn is so finely spun. You know, these, I had actually thought about, so thank you, Sarah. I had actually thought about doing the like doing 3 separate samples. So doing, a Gotland shawl, a Targhee shawl, and then a merino alpaca shawl, and showcasing the 3 yarns separately. So what I might do, depending on how much yarn this takes, is I might still do that, but with smaller sort of accessory type items, depending on how much yarn this takes, because I don't really know. We'll see. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about my Felix, and then we'll say goodbye, because I need to... I do have to be somewhat aware of the time, even though I don't really want to be. And I want to just sit here and keep talking and hearing from you guys. Thank you to those of you who have been, who are free and who are here. Normally the podcast isn't released until tomorrow at 4 p.m. for everyone. Normally for patrons, you guys have access to the podcast for a few days before I release it publicly. But I think because of what's going on in the world, and there are people who are part of our community who can't or don't want to, or have other limitations around being patrons of the community, I think what we'll do is I will release the show a little bit earlier than I normally would. So you guys who weren't able to watch the whole episode, or weren't able to be here at the live stream, will be able to watch the show relatively quickly. Okay, final project is my Felix. So I have tried to knit the Felix before. I feel like a bit of a dog with a bone about this. This isn't really the correct color, but I know it's because the blue is so hard to pick up on the monitor. And this is more closely the yarn. I spun this yarn back in 2000 and... I'm going to look it up. I'm not going to try to guess. I spun it back in 2017, and I spun it over the course of only a couple of weeks. And I ended up with sort of one medium skein, a small skein, which is this one actually, and then a bigger skein. And I pulled it out the other night and started swatching with it, and I was kind of dreaming about it, which I know is kind of funny. And so I swatched it on 6mm needles, and I was looking at the Felix cardigan, and I wanted something that was a cropped cardigan that was quite open and quite loose, that would just hang, but that I could button up if I needed to go with a couple of dresses and one dress and jeans with a longer shirt that I sort of have, that I wear quite often. And that's sort of what I ended up doing. So I'm well onto the body now. I was working with this with Rebecca, and actually, if you guys want to see it on my dress form, I'll pull my dress form forward and we can switch the cameras around. So it is quite baggy. I'm making the smallest size because I wanted ease like in the photos of Amy. This is an Amy Christoffers pattern, but I also didn't want it to be so massive, because I don't necessarily need that. So it's hard to show items and clothing and stuff on the dress form when they're sort of a bit baggy, because there's no movement to the dress form, right? Like, she doesn't have any ability to kind of shift and flux. And I don't actually think that I have a spare cable with me up here that I can make the cable longer, so that I can show you guys a little bit more accurately how the Felix will look. But I can pull this through. So my vision, and because this is a Polworth mohair silk blend, which actually unfortunately Lynn doesn't have anymore. This was my absolute most favorite base of hers that she used to carry, and she used to have it made at Custom Woolen Mills in Alberta, I think, and she doesn't have it anymore. But sort of my vision is to sort of wear, like, there's a button band that still needs to be picked up here, but sort of to wear it sort of open and sort of hanging a little bit. And then, when I want to, I can bring the fronts forward and button it if I want to. And then when I finish the body, I'm going to do the 2 sleeves at the same time, so that I can basically knit until I run out of yarn. So I'll do the button band and the collar at the top here. There's a 1x1 rib collar at the top, and then there's a 1x1 rib button band that you pick up. So I'll do those first, and then I'll do the 2 sleeves, and I'll knit them at the same time. And the Felix is a really cool little pattern because it's got these like neat this sort of lace motif that is your raglan increases, which quite frankly is just really pretty. And then you've got short rows at the back collar to lift up the back neck, and you can see some movement in the handspun, but it's not too stripy. I've been alternating my skeins 2x2, so 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, and it's just really I think it works. You know, I think with a black dress underneath, which is what my original sort of visioning was of why I wanted a cropped cardigan. So you're supposed to knit this until you've got 10 inches, and I'm at 5 right now, so I might actually not knit at a whole 10, because then with the 2 inches of ribbing at the bottom, that's 12 inches down here. I'm not sure. I might make it a little bit shorter. Yeah, because that's getting a bit long. I'm not super tall. So some of these cropped cardigans on me aren't really like full length, but they're not really short. So I'm not sure. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, Eve, that happened. Something just happened with her dog. So that's the Felix. It's a lot of fabric. I am a little bit concerned about all of this fabric at the front. Like, I would almost kind of prefer that this came down here and that there wasn't all of this to button closed. Like, I almost think I would almost prefer more of like the featherweight front, if that makes sense, where it just comes down here and then you've got like a collar that goes all the way around. I was thinking about that the other day, and there is so little knitting in this that I actually, if I had to rip it out and remake it, I wouldn't be that upset. So I'm going to finish the body, try it on me, and see what I think. Because the other thing that I was thinking too, I'm going to move this forward a little bit so that you can really see it. The other thing that I was thinking was that I could move my mic so that you can hear me. The other thing that I was thinking was I could actually use a crochet hook, and I could unwork basically probably 3 of the horizontal rows, work all the way up and turn them into purl stitches, and then come all the way back down so that is the button band in here, and then pick up for the collar. I've done that before years ago, probably even before the podcast, and that would give me a nice edge and the button band, and it would almost be like I knit the button band at the same time, because you need something to help this edge to sort of even out. So I was thinking about going back and ripping back just that one row of stitches. Like, you just go up that one row with a crochet hook, and then you bring it back down to change them to purl stitches, and then you've created your button band at the front there. And I would have to do it with 3 rows on both sides. The advantage to doing that, ow, just hit my hand on the table. The advantage to doing that is that it doesn't then become even wider at the front, and I could work in some buttonholes as well, or do some afterthought buttonholes. That's an option as well. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I would love to know what you guys would do if you were, like, it's really wide, right? Like, it's meant to be oversized, don't get me wrong. Like, it's the aesthetic is correct. But I know, like Megan, you're never careful. You're never you always modify and do stuff like that. So you find it shrinks up width-wise as I wear it. So the more I wear it, the more cropped it is. Oh, that's good to know, Maggie. I wonder what that's about. Maybe because it's not super long, so you don't have the weight of the yarn. And Let Lopi's light anyways, because this is very light and airy. This is 620 yards of hand spun, and the weight, I think it's 200 grams was the yarn total. Yeah, 260 grams, so a little bit denser for me. The grist was 1,000 yards per pound, and it's a DK weight. I said DK weight in my Ravelry page, but to be honest with you, it's probably more of like a light worsted. The wraps per inch is probably a little bit more like 10 instead of like 12. Yeah. And I spun this on my match list way back when I still had my match list, which I still miss. So, yeah. The fiber is Polworth mohair silk. And actually, I never wrote down what the ratios were. I think it was I can't remember what she used to do for the ratios, for the percentages of the fiber, because it was a custom blend that she used to have done at Custom Woolen Mills, and she can't get it anymore, and she can't have it made anymore. And I don't actually know what the percentages were. I never wrote it down. It's not in my project page. I did do that big cowl in the grays and the purples years ago, out of the same fiber, because I bought the two at the same time. Actually, I wish I had bought more now, because you can't get it. And I don't know if I wrote it down there. I didn't. Bummer. Anyhow. Polworth mohair silk. It's probably only about 5 or 10% silk. It's probably 15% mohair. It's mostly Polworth. But it's got that gorgeous sheen because of the mohair and the silk. It's one of my most favorite blends, and I loved spinning it. I didn't stash them. I kept them, like I spun them right away. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Meg. I just don't think it's enough to really stretch it really. So, yeah. All right, I think we're gonna have to say goodbye, because it's been a long time and Mike is hanging in without me. We've been streaming for an hour and a half, and I never ran the intro credits at the beginning of the show, even though I had them ready to go. So I'll run those, and then we'll run the final cut. And I just want to thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope that you're hanging in there with some of the social distancing and social isolation. You know, stay hydrated and get lots of rest. Try to get outside every day if you can, if you're not in a super populated area. And stay safe, stay well, wash your hands, and just know that we're all thinking about you, and that we know that you're thinking about us. Stay in contact on Slack, on the Slack channel, in the Ravelry group. Tag me if you've got stuff to share and you're chatting about stuff. I don't mind. I have changed my username on Slack, because when we first started Slack, I had set up like a test account that was also at Well for Pearls, and then my Slack account that I use like 100% of the time now that we've kind of gone through that initial testing from a few years ago, was also at Well for Pearls. So I think one of them was like Well for Pearls 614, and then there was my regular just at Well for Pearls. People still sometimes will tag my Wellford 614 one once in a while. Anyway, so what I did, that one still exists because I need it for testing sometimes. What I did now is my Slack one. If you want to tag me on anything, never hesitate to tag me, ever. Don't ever hesitate in Slack to tag me. I've put wellforpearls_admin, and then you guys know that that's the one to use, and it just keeps it really clear. So there has been that minor change, but I've only done that just so that you guys know exactly which one to use, and that's the wellforpearls_admin. So tag me on Slack, you know, keep the conversation going. I really hope that you'll think about joining the Made with Love along, and that we can hold one another up in a time like this. Let's be creative, let's come together, and you know, enjoy this unique time in our modern history. Thank you to everybody who has reached out to me personally and has sent me messages and notes. I really appreciate it. It has not gone unnoticed. I think I've responded to most people, but if you haven't had a response yet, it's just because I haven't had a chance. And until next time, have a wonderful weekend. We will stream again next week on Wednesday at 11 a.m. So we'll be back to our regular Wednesdays. And we've got a wool stream coming up on Tuesday as well. And our virtual spin group will be meeting on Wednesday morning as well. So we have lots of stuff to look forward to. And have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, happy spinning. Bye, guys.